Which teams assembled draft halls that we're a little skeptical about and we need to see it? We're exploring that today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league. I'm a Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who make Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase.
Joseph, it's time to put I don't even want to call it the constructive criticism. It's just we have questions that we want to see answered about some classes from the 2024 NFL Draft. And I don't know who you have on your short list. You don't know who I have on my short list. What was your methodology for identifying? Was it just looking at the class and be like, kind of want to? Because it's like, I could tell you who drafted most and least like how I coveted the players, but that's not really how I put my list together here.
It was a little bit that, Kyle, but honestly, it was more about the direction of your team, what I thought you needed to accomplish, and how good of a job you did at that.
Great. So very subjective. All the more reason for everybody to get upset with us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We're inviting vitriol and hate and vinegar and all that stuff.
But it's not vitriol and hate for us on the classes. It's we want to see how your strategy plays itself out.
But you know how this goes, right? Even despite whatever priors you had about the players, now that they are yours and you've seen the GM rave about them and you've seen their introductory press conference and the teams, doing all the first day on campus stuff, you start to really buy in. You're like, all right, I think this guy's going to be really good. Yep. So like this is the part of the conversation that I don't think will be well received, to be honest with you. Because now
I have scoured over a lot of Patrick Paul Houston tape over the last 72 hours to see, 36s. Average time to throws 2.5 seconds. It's a long way to go. Long got to go around to get to the quarterback in 2.5 seconds.
As I have done with Mr. Keon Coleman. He's got a lot of personality, though. You know what I mean? So he's making it easy to like him.
A lot of clips, a lot of positive
clips
from the facility for Keon with his big yellow coat from
Macy's.
79.89,
Kyle. You too can own
make
yourself.
Make sure you get it in July, right?
Yeah, it's the cheapest. All right, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. Who's the draft class you have the most question that you want to see how it plays out? Because you have some dots that have not been connected as you look at their class.
How do you not start with the Atlanta Falcons? I mean, it's the low-hanging fruit. You just signed Kirk Cousins to a significant contract to be your starting quarterback. And you draft Michael Penix, number 8 overall. And I feel like Atlanta should be all in on their opportunity to win with Kirk Cousins, who they're pretty much locked in to for the next 3 seasons, and use that top 10 pick to position yourself to maximize your window with Kirk Cousins, not to set up for the future. Like you told us that you weren't thinking about the future when you made that decision to sign Kirk at his age coming off of the Achilles. And so, I need to see this play out. And I've been asking myself this question: what needs to happen with the Atlanta Falcons in the next 2-3 years for me to understand this? Like, is it win the Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins? Because I am having a hard time piecing this all together. And then you get beyond Michael Penix, which I think is an indefensible pick. Rook Orohoro, who's a toolsy player that is definitely still a project. I don't know how much he's going to help you in this window.
5.
At 35. At 35, yes. And then Braylon Trice. Like, I definitely like the ideas of investing in the defensive line, but Braylon Trice was a not-for-me prospect to begin with. So you have 3 top 75 picks, and you come away with those players. And here's the other layer with Michael Penix. I'm also not a fan. Like, I see accuracy issues. I don't see him work the middle of the field. I see an athletic player that doesn't weaponize his legs. He wasn't good until he had all the players around him at Washington. He was pretty mad at Indiana. Older, injured. Like, there's plenty of questions about this.
Do you think it's fair to say Michael Penix was one of the most polarizing players in this year's draft class? Because I've seen like people that are like in high spaces that I have respect, like a lot of respect for how they view the game and see the game, that had very different opinions of Michael Penix than you and I did.
I don't want to take the easy way out of this, but I probably consumed the least amount of
easy way out. Got it.
Draft content like ever. Like honestly, dude, if it wasn't me and you talking about it, I probably didn't hear about it.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
It's a good place to be. Atlanta was on my list. They were actually not the first name that I wanted to invoke, though. My first one's the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix at quarterback. They apparently knew going into draft night that was going to be their guy at 12. Sean Payton working the lines to get Minnesota to go up and get McCarthy, right? That was your pick at 12 is Bo Nix. Bo Nix is a player who I like the fit with Sean Payton a lot. And I think that is one of the better play caller, quarterback style of play matches that we have in this year's class. But I think the rest of the class, and you had two picks in the top 102. It's not like you were brimming with draft capital. You've already traded Jerry Jeudy. Are you going to trade Cortland Sutton? There's been like rumors all week that Pittsburgh's knocking on the door for trading for Cortland Sutton. So like, what is the rest of your wide receiver room and the skill group around him look like?
Tim Patrick, baby.
Tim Patrick.
He's going to be healthy and ready to go.
Troy Franklin's going to get a lot of snaps early on. I can tell you that. And that's the pre-existing connection with Bo and Troy Franklin is maybe helpful there. But Jonah Ellis, Troy Franklin is your next 2 picks. They had a lot of the same type of player in their edge room as what I think Jonah Ellis is when you think about Nick Benito, right? When you think about Baron Browning, they've got this type of guy. So it was interesting to see them get another one of that type of guy at 76. You get Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin has questions. I have questions with Troy Franklin as a player in general, as far as the translatability of some of what he does. I like the Chris Abrams Drain pick a lot. And then and that's at 145. And then you're into Audric Estime from Notre Dame, another mauler running back to go with Javonte Williams. Is Estime, like, is there a succession plan there for Javonte Williams, who obviously wasn't quite himself coming back off of the injury when he played this past season? So you get QB 6 when it's all said and done at 12. That in itself, it's a historic number. That's deeper into a quarterback pool than we've ever seen go that early in a draft. That plus more of the same type of pass rusher, plus a wide receiver that I had some questions with, transposed over top of how you've spent your assets the past few years, and kind of like you're in a critical mass window for Sean Payton, right? I mean, the picks that you gave for Russ, the picks that you gave for Sean Payton, you've now moved on from Russ and very quickly identified the heir, which is Bo Nix. What happens if you miss on Bo Nix? You can't afford to miss on. This could get really ugly if you miss on Bo Nix. So I think it's not necessarily like, I didn't like the value of their players that they got or this or that. Like, I like Bo Nix. He was ranked higher than 6 on my quarterback rankings. But it's the full intersection of where this organization is, how it got here, and what this class aims to do that I need to see more on.
We already had this conversation. I've come around to Bo Nix being an appropriate pick for the Denver Broncos. The question that I have, and what's interesting is, can you do this? Can you ask yourself the question, if the Broncos don't take Bo Nix at 12, where does he go? That's a fascinating thing to consider. Now, if he's your guy, you pick him. You don't think twice about it. But it's the Kenny Pickett thing. If the Pittsburgh Steelers don't pick Kenny Pickett at 20, when does he get drafted, right?
Right, because all those other quarterbacks went in the 3rd round.
Right, exactly. All right, we got more to get into, so be sure to stick with us. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Folks, you shouldn't have to worry when you're looking to buy tickets for your next big event. Well, you don't have to, because Game Time is here for you, and it's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They have killer deals on last-minute tickets, all-in prices, a view from your seat, and a best price guarantee. Game Time takes the best work out of buying tickets. The app is awesome. They have flash deals. It's easy to navigate. Plus, when you buy a ticket from Game Time, they send it right to your phone so you don't have to dig through emails. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
All right, Joe. So next question on the third here is just our next teams with questions that we have to finish out the show today. And I want to pose a question to you.
Okay.
And it's a very broad question that does not take into account draft capital, like where teams pick. But do any teams stand out to you that you think might be contenders for the least amount of snaps taken by rookies in 2024?
Oh, man.
The Browns are low-hanging fruit because they picked first at 54 and then again at 85, and they took Zach Sinter with one of those two picks, who's obviously not going to start on the offensive line, at least at the start of the season. And Michael Hall is going to be a rotational guy. So if you put the Browns aside, there's another draft class that I kind of looked at. I'm like, I don't know how much you guys are going to play at all. And that in itself is going to have to be a wait and see if those guys don't crack the starting lineup.
I wonder if it's Carolina.
It's not Carolina, but let's go there. Let's talk about why Carolina was one that stood out to you in that regard.
Well, you framed the question through the lens of playing time.
Mm-hmm.
And I see Xavier Legette, who is probably their third receiver.
Is it Legette?
I don't know. I think
know. That's how
don't do this.
Goodell announced it. And then
God.
they asked him about it, and he was like, you got to say it like there's two E's.
Legette. Okay.
I think it's Xavier Legette.
We will get to the bottom of this. I'm sure somebody will. Yeah. Jonathan Brooks, your second-round pick, coming off of an ACL tear. Who knows, right? Trevin Wallace, he's not going to start over Shaq Thompson or Josie Jewell. Jatavian Sanders as a fourth-round pick tight end. Like, where are the snaps coming here? I think this is – I don't know who you have slotted for this. Obviously, you had someone in mind when you asked me the question, but this one feels like a strong contender. I don't see anybody that's going to start.
How about the Houston Texans?
Okay.
Kamari Lassiter, probably a nickel. Do you think he starts outside?
I think that's his path. I don't think their nickel situation is just fine with Desmond King.
Right. That's what I mean. So, okay, there's some roadblocks to maybe where you're most likely to play. Blake Fisher.
He's not going to play this year.
Kalen Bullock?
Probably not. Not over Ward and Petre.
Cade Stover?
Maybe they play three safeties.
How much we paying Dalton Kincaid? Or not Dalton Kincaid. How much we paying?
You're not paying him anything. We didn't trade him there yet. Kyle Crabbs.
How much we paying Dalton Schultz?
Pretty healthy amount of money.
It's like over $10 million a season, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, now you're into Jamal Hill, special teams guy.
This is unless Lassiter and Bullock start, this is a strong contender.
And it's like, that doesn't make it a bad class because the two names that I invoke, Cleveland and Houston, you recognize they're strong rosters, right?
Yeah.
But it's one of those, this is a class for me that I don't know what you're going to get out of it early. And that's not, again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is just looking at who you took, can appreciate some of the value if you project the players into your specific scheme. Some long-term heirs to other positions, some more flexibility in the offensive line. Like I get it, but I don't know if you ask me if they're top 4 guys who's going to take the most amount of snaps. It's unless Lassiter wins a starting job at corner.
All right, beat out Okuda and play on the outside, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think they're a strong contender to sign Xavier Howard in free agency.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, by the way, happy compensatory free agent window signing closing.
Thank you.
To you, which happened yesterday.
Thank you. Yeah, sign all the players.
People are going to wait till their money frees up now.
Well, now we got, you're with me. Brandon Beane said on this press conference the other day, he's like, I'd love to trade for Deebo Samuel, but I only could pay him $3 million. You think he'd be okay with that? Need the Trey White money to hit.
No, salary cap's not real, though.
Right. It's definitely not real. Definitely not real. All right. I have my next one that I'd like to bring up here. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that we've had a conversation about this team. So this might be a surprise to you. I'm going in on the Raiders. Man, I feel bad saying this. Brock Bowers is an awesome prospect, right? A top 10 player for me. They get him at 13. I don't have any problems with that. I have a problem with the overall direction of this football team. And you look at this roster, and I'm sorry, I hate to say this, but it's all pointless because Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell are your quarterbacks. What was the point of signing Christian Wilkins to a $100 million contract? What's the point of having Devontae Adams on this roster? What's the point of having Brock Bowers when this is your quarterback situation? Congratulations, rally and go win 8 or 9 games and pick 15th or 16th in the draft next year. I just don't see the ceiling with this team. The fact that they haven't done anything that moves the needle in the smallest amount of way for a quarterback bothers me. And that's what and that would be fine. If you weren't going, Christian Wilkins is 29 years old. I just don't understand. I don't understand all of this decisions and how they piece together based on where this team is in their life cycle. Year 1 with Pierce. You seem like you're loading up on some veterans. You're getting, Brock Bowers when you just drafted Michael Mayer, but Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew are your quarterbacks. It doesn't make sense to me. It feels like maybe the Falcons should call up the Raiders and trade them Kirk Cousins for Christian Wilkins or something like that so that this would be a little bit more logical.
That'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. Doing that.
That would make more sense for both teams.
If only the salary cap would allow that to happen, which is not real at all.
Think about this. Atlanta was a team picking in the top 10 that were in striking range for a quarterback. I think they should have always felt pretty good about getting Penix at 8. But you're the team that signed Kirk Cousins. Meanwhile, the other team that's picking 13 after Denver and Minnesota and all these teams, you're the one signing Christian Wilkins, and you're playing a quarterback is Gardner Minshew. Congrats on the 8 wins. You're going to be the 3rd best team in the West. You're going to be the 10th team in the AFC. To me, it's all pointless to have those players, Adams, Wilkins, drafting a guy like Brock Bowers. You're in no position to maximize any of that talent.
Yeah, they kind of feel like they're in no man's land, right?
100%.
And on one hand, I totally respect raising the floor of the rest of the roster. I understand that and the thought behind it, and that needs to be accomplished. But Devontae Adams getting any younger, right? Look at your pillar pieces, and Devontae Adams is a staple, but he's getting older. I don't know that you feel really good about the right tackle spot with Delmar Glaze, who you used a 3rd-round pick on to draft, but he's probably going to play. You mentioned the quarterback situation with really no ammunition to attack it.
Nothing.
Or say you do win 8-9 games.
The worst thing they could do is go win 8 or 9 games.
Right. Either be on one end of the spectrum or the other. I'm picking up what you're putting down here. I don't know that Raiders fans will hearing it or agree with it, but at the same time, how many eggs are you going to put in the Aiden O'Connell basket? right? And if you don't believe in him, then I think you raise very valid points as far as like, where do you go from here at that position? You sit here and bank on Dak Prescott leaving in free agency next year and throw him all the monies. And maybe you do. And if you do, we'll say, oh, okay, very, very ballsy gamble pays off that a quarterback of that caliber hits the free agent market for you.
Vegas has that special no income tax situation going for him, right? So probably a pretty attractive place, you'd think.
All right.
So there's the Raiders.
We
got more. We got a few more. We'll get to those here in just a second. So be sure to stick with us. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You've already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. You get unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, and hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or you heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on.
How many more teams do you have?
Just one. I brought three to the table, brother. I wasn't trying to roast more teams than I had to.
I also have just one.
All right.
Who do you got?
I have the Jaguars.
Jaguars are on my honorable mentions list. So I'm glad that you shouted them out.
Well, the team you mentioned earlier, Denver, was on my honorable mention list if I had to get to it. So
okay, cool. This is a good little overlap here.
Yeah,
unsolicited overlap. I think Brian Thomas, Brian Thomas has a skill set that will contribute something early on. I think the question with Brian Thomas for me was always, where are you drafting him? What can he become based on what he is right now? But Brian Thomas is probably the pick I feel best about in this class.
Right. And credit to them, they did trade back and got him, right?
Yep.
So
move back 6 spots and still got him.
Right. I'd rather just stick there 6 spots ahead and pick like Quinyon Mitchell and move on with my life. But
what are the questions you have about Mason Smith?
Watch the tape and you tell me. You tell me what there's to like. So yeah, I think step one in my concerns with the Jaguars draft class was, all right, was it actually beneficial to trade back and get Brian Thomas, who I feel like Jacksonville's just been way too panicky with their wide receiver position. Like, you have a very established situation with Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk. You had Zay Jones. You cut him presumably because you drafted Brian Thomas. You gave Gabe Davis money. Like, you throw the ball a lot to your running backs. I just didn't feel the same level of panic. I'm way more concerned about their corner situation opposite of Tyson Campbell. And so you had a chance to stick and pick CB1. I would have done that. And so then you come back and you get Mason Smith in the top 50, who I had a late round grade on. I don't see it with him. And one day maybe everyone will dunk on me and say, Joe, you didn't see the foresight. I don't know. I thought his tape was bad. And then like Jerry and Jones, that's a fine 3rd round pick. I can live with that. But then Javon Foster and Jordan Jefferson are like depth developmental pieces. So you have 5 picks in the top 116, and I see a deep threat and maybe a corner in the 3rd round. I don't know. I don't love how this all stacks together. And I feel like I would have attacked their needs a lot differently.
Yeah. I think what's interesting about the Jerry and Jones pick, I like Jerry and Jones. I think he's super combative. I think he's super feisty. I think he can be a little grabby sometimes, but I like that pick a lot. I think what's interesting is how does he complement, assuming Antonio Johnson's going to be the guy that is like the 3rd safety, right? They signed Darnell Savage, who has some flexibility to go with Andre Sisco, who's a high post type player and is a big safety. How do all those pieces fit together? Right. I think that's the question that I have with Jerry and Jones. Mason Smith, if I'm going to get optimistic, I could say, okay, you can learn behind Eric Armstead. That's great because you're going to need somebody to mentor you with the tools that you have to try to get the light to come on. But I generally agree with you. I look at their class and the contributors, especially for having picks in the top 120, I think is a fair question to bring up. The last one that I have is the New England Patriots. Drake Maye, I think, is the most high variance of the quarterbacks that went in the first round, as far as the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows. They went undrafted 4 offensive players for their next 4 picks, all in the top 110. Jalen Polk, Caden Wallace, Layden Robinson, Javon Baker. Those are the next 4 picks that they have. Joe, what do you always like to talk about not doing with quarterbacks?
Developing players around a developing quarterback.
Right. So you have, Demario Douglas is a second-year player. You have Kayshon Boutte as a second-year player. You have Tyquan Thornton, who the light bulb has not come on for. You've got Kendrick Bourne. Okay,
coming off of an ACL.
Coming off of an ACL, but your most stable player.
Right.
Your offensive line situation, I like that you went out and got Chukwuma Okorafor, but you got, City Sal, Layden Robinson, Antonio Maffey, Cole Strange. Those are all first, second. Cole's a third-year player?
Yeah, he's drafted.
But a lot of youth there on the interior. Jake Andrews, how long does David Andrews play? So I just think there's potential for a lot of youth, which is good and it's needed. And I appreciate that you have a veteran in Jacoby Brissett who can kind of be a stabilizing force there. But I wasn't particularly high on Caden Wallace. So does he crack the starting lineup this year? Probably not, with Okorafor and Onwenu as the presumed starting tackles. I was even lower on Layden Robinson. Yeah, and y'all had interior guys that played last year and I thought showed some promise. So the wide receivers with the quarterback, all of that developing simultaneously around each other, I think is just something. It's a chemistry experiment. They're going to have to wait and see what clicks and what doesn't, and all of it's probably not going to click, and then they're going to have to go out and reinvest again.
They only drafted 1 player on defense, huh? Marcellus Dial.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And then Joe Milton, Jaheim Bell. And I really like the Jaheim Bell pick for them a lot.
They're running the Cleveland offense, Kyle. Ramondre Stevenson told us that yesterday. So if you're playing the Patriots this year, you'll want to study the Browns.
The Browns. Alex Van Pelt in there, baby. But, Jaheim Bell, you running the Cleveland offense, they got a couple tight ends that have had some nice production that I think are less gifted than Jaheim Bell. So,
right.
Surprised you win the 7th.
But you think we're going to put Onwenu at left tackle, Chooks at right tackle, and then Strange
so.
And so what are we doing at tackle? We're going to start Caden Wallace at left tackle?
Either I would move Okorafor before I move Onwenu. And maybe the argument against that as well, Onwenu, you're paying the money, so he needs to play left tackle. I think that's a good way to make that contract not look good. He's playing the left tackle.
That's not a question I was thinking I didn't think the Patriots could be coming out of this draft with us wondering what's their left tackle going to be.
Who's playing left tackle?
Right. Unless they believe Caden Wallace is their answer, and that feels aggressive to me.
That's going to do it. We need to see it.
Need to see it.
We'll wait and see. That's going to do it for us here on Locked On NFL Scouting. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He's Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your day. We are out of here. We have the rest of this week dedicated to debriefing the 2024 NFL Draft. We're looking forward to that. So we hope you will come back and see us again tomorrow.